English Planet. Appunti di inglese, a cura di Nicholas Youldon.
Good evening everybody, and welcome to another edition of English Planet, part of the webcasting vision of Radio Dreamland, which is trying to not only resolve problems with English for non-native speakers, but also to promote an eco-spiritual approach to living on our planet in this world. As usual, you're listening to the voice of your presenter and English teacher, Nick Youldon. Now, before we continue this evening, I just want to remind you or offer you a possible motto of encouragement. Remember, your English is probably better than you think. Please repeat this and remember it. My English is better than I think. In my experience as a teacher, in most cases this is true. Obviously there are some people who overestimate their English, who think they're extremely good at everything, when in fact they are not. But as I say, in my experience, for the most part, with Italian students, they think their English is not very good, but in reality they are better than they think. Hold on a minute, we said something there, something interesting. Let's focus a moment. I said my English is better than I think. What is better? Better is a comparison. It's a comparison using the adjective good. Good, better. The adjective good is irregular in forming its comparison. Good, better, a completely different word, but a word which conforms to the rule, the regulation, the grammatical rule for comparisons in English. Look at some other adjectives. We have big, bigger, rich, richer, fast, faster, old, older, high, higher, tall, taller. You are probably familiar with these adjectives and with the formation of their comparative form. Big, bigger. Bigger is spelled B-I-G-G-E-R. Rich, richer. Richer is spelled R-I-C-H-E-R. Fast, faster. Faster is spelled F-A-S-T-E-R. We're adding in a little spelling practice here. We are always adding a suffix ER to our existing adjective. To use a comparative, we have to compare one thing with another thing. Let's make some sentences. My English is better than I think. We've already practiced this. America is bigger than Italy. Donald Trump is richer than me, I think. A Ferrari is faster than a Fiat Panda. The Queen of England is older than me. Mount Everest is higher than Monviso. John is taller than Henry. Pay attention there, because the adjective high and the adjective tall both translate in Italian into alto or alta. But we use high for mountains, trees, objects, and tall for people. Also pay attention, because all of these adjectives are monosyllables. Good, big, rich, fast, old, high, tall. And for this reason we can simply add the suffix er. Better, bigger, richer, faster. For adjectives with more than one syllable, there is a different system which we can look at in a minute. But first, let's look at another possibility for making comparisons. we can always use the opposite of the adjective, but we also have to invert the objects being compared or the people being compared. For example, if I can say America is bigger than Italy, I can also say Italy is smaller than America. In this comparison, America is big and Italy is small. Italy obviously is not absolutely small, but in this comparison it is. To make our comparison, America is big, so we say America is bigger than Italy. Italy is small, so we say Italy is smaller than America. It's not correct to say America is smaller than Italy. Remember that for comprehension and communication in English, the sequence of the words is always important. By the same logic, I can also say I am poorer than Donald Trump. My Fiat Panda is slower than your Ferrari. I am younger than the Queen of England. Monviso is lower than Mount Everest. I don't remember the names now, but I think John is shorter than Henry. Another important point when we make a comparison with a sentence is that we use the linking word than between our two objects, persons or situations. America is bigger than Italy. Henry is taller than John. Okay, than is spelled T-H-A-N, than. Donald Trump, and Joe Biden too for that matter, are richer than me. So I am poorer than them. This system, using a suffix er, is applicable to all adjectives which are with only one syllable, as I said, monosyllabic, or also some of the shorter adjectives using two syllables. For example, heavy, pesante, heavy, heavier, happy, felice, happy, happier, busy, impegnato, movimentato, busy, busier, lazy, pigro, lazy, lazier. Let's try some example sentences. A bus is heavier than a bicycle. People who meditate are happier than people who don't. London is busier than Alpignano. A cat is lazier than a bee, with all due respect to cats, of course. However, for adjectives with two syllables or more, which also include these examples I've already given you, which are optional, but in all other cases there is an alternative system in English for making comparisons, which is more similar to the Italian system for making comparisons. In Italy, for example, we say lui è più intelligente di me. In English, this would translate as he is more intelligent than me. Instead of changing the basic form of the original adjective, we use an additional word, which in English is more. In Italian, più. Let's have some more examples. Adjective, beautiful. Turin is a more beautiful city than Milan. But I don't want to offend people who live in Milan, of course. Adjective, difficult. Chinese is a more difficult language than English. Well, that's a question of opinion, of course. Adjective, complicated. English grammar is more complicated than Italian grammar. It probably is because it's completely different. Remember I said the adjectives I mentioned previously with 2 syllables can also be used in the same way. For example, heavy. A bus is more heavy than a car. Happy. People who meditate are more happy than people who don't. Busy. London is more busy than Alpignano. Lazy. Cats are more lazy than bees. This option seems to make English more complicated, but it's part of the beauty of English, the democratic aspect of English, that some people say this and some people say that. In these particular examples, both are correct, so it's difficult to go wrong. But as a student, remember, it's probably more simple to remember that adjectives with monosyllables follow the suffix system: big, bigger, fat, fatter, thin, thinner, high, higher, etc. All other adjectives we can use more difficult, more complicated, more heavy. In that way, it's almost impossible to make a mistake. But if you're listening in close contact to English people, you can copy the version, the system which they use, and you will also be correct. But one fundamental rule which cannot be amended in English grammar is that these comparisons can only be between 2 persons, 2 objects, 2 situations. If you want to compare America with Italy, you can make a simple comparison. America is bigger than Italy. Italy is smaller than America. If you want to make a comparison between more than 2 things, 2 ideas, let's say 3, this is also possible, but there is a different system. Let's have a look. For example, Turin is a big city, but Paris is bigger than Turin. However, New York is the biggest of the 3. This introduces the concept of big, bigger, biggest, good, better, best, difficult, more difficult, most difficult, and the idea of superlatives rather than comparisons. So we will look at that in the next lesson, because we need more time. Let's leave this subject here for the moment. You can maybe practice in the meantime. Try and think of as many adjectives in English as you can. Maybe you can write a list or think a list. And then try saying them in comparisons and maybe making some comparisons. Just as I have done in this lesson. Big, bigger, bigger, sorry, stick to comparisons. Big, bigger, heavy, heavier, difficult, more difficult, beautiful, more beautiful, easy, easier, busy, busier, etc., etc. See how big a list you can make, and try to make some comparisons. We'll follow this up in the next lesson. For the moment, we'll make a short interruption to have some advertising and important announcements, and I'll be back with you shortly. Stay tuned to Radio Dreamland. Be back soon.
Meditazione planetaria del martedì. Radio Dreamland si unisce all'iniziativa della meditazione planetaria del martedì sera, organizzata dal New Earth Circle. Ogni martedì sera alle 21 vi invitiamo a partecipare alla meditazione planetaria dedicata a Madre Terra e a tutti i suoi figli di qualsiasi specie. Ognuno può unirsi al cerchio planetario dei meditanti partecipando da soli o con i propri cari, per una testimonianza di pace e di spiritualità che abbracci tutto il pianeta, per un atto d'amore verso Madre Terra, per un mondo antispecista. Unitevi con noi in meditazione, seguendo la Nassinar, La musica del vuoto eseguita al flauto da Giancarlo Barbadoro. Ogni martedì alle 21. Per informazioni www.newercircle.org. Radio Dreamland. Share the vision.
Okay, we're back on air. This is English Planet, webcasting on Radio Dreamland and sharing the vision with you this evening. First, this evening I'd like to make a little reference, a linguistic reference to a word which is very well known in English, which is the word eccentric. Eccentric. Eccentric is something which in England is behavior, a person or behavior, eccentric person, eccentric behavior, something which is tolerated in society, which is not punished or threatened and doesn't threaten or isn't dangerous to anybody else in society. In British society it is quite acceptable to be eccentric. Your friends and neighbours will look at you in a friendly way. They may consider themselves superior because they are, as we say, normal, and you are, on the other hand, different. You are eccentric. Is eccentricity illegal or punishable in England? Are eccentric people put in prison or in hospital? No, they're not. Are eccentric people depressed or angry, or do they feel suicidal? No, they don't. They simply live their lives with slightly different opinions and slightly different behavior from the majority of the rest of society. What constitutes eccentric behavior? Well, there may be many aspects of eccentric behavior. You may wear strange clothes, unusual clothes, or you may be extremely interested or passionate about strange ideas, maybe legends. Maybe you believe in dragons or fairies or giants or something similar. Maybe you've seen a ghost, or you've seen a UFO flying over your head. All of these may be considered eccentric behavior because in majoritarian society these are not considered normal activities or normal behavior. A long time ago in Britain, when railways and trains were very important and extensive, an important form of travel, trains were pulled by steam locomotives, incredible engineering miracles. Each one of these steam locomotives had a description and a number, and there were endless numbers of young boys who spent their time on railway stations or near railway tracks, collecting the numbers of the locomotives and counting the trains when they passed, and writing them down in books. Of course, in those days there were no video games or computers or smartphones, so this was a way of passing time for young boys. They didn't get into any trouble, they weren't being dangerous, they were doing nothing which was illegal or anything wrong. But they were, to a certain extent, considered eccentric, because this was a hobby which was limited to a small number of people, let's say, mainly young boys for some reason. These boys were not maladjusted, they were not dangerous, they were not unhappy, they were perfectly happy, they had friends, they had an interest, and they grew into adults, healthy, happy adults with families and a job and a happy life. I mention eccentrics and eccentricity here because, as I say, in Britain this is something which is part of society. It's tolerated, but in some circumstances, in some parts of majoritarian society, it is not seen in the same way. People who do not conform exactly to the rules and regulations and are not politically correct in majoritarian society are considered to be in need of help. They need a psychologist, or they need medicine, or they need to go to hospital, or they risk committing suicide. Now, I actually consider myself to be somewhat eccentric because during my life I have never really pursued in full the requirements, the ideas or the philosophies of our majoritarian society. I have frequently bucked the trend, as we say in English, not following blindly other people or following what I am instructed to do by people around me, but by following what I believe in personally. This, during my life, has led me to investigate, to research, to look into many of these areas which I previously mentioned, which make up what is in modern society the invisible world. Those ideas which theoretically do not exist. It may be aliens, it may be UFOs, it may be ghosts, it may be ancient civilizations, it may be giants, or it may be dragons, of which I will begin to speak now. But in any case, this has led me to a happy life, a happy experience for many years, and I have not felt any threat to my existence by the fact that I possibly follow ideas which are different. I possibly follow eccentric ideas and eccentric outlook. I actually feel content to consider myself an eccentric because in reality what reassures me, what makes me feel good, is that something probably which I can only call destiny brought me to Turin. When I came to Turin, I had no intention or even information about the fact that I was coming to Turin. I was coming to work in Italy, and I found myself in Turin. As a consequence, I then equally came into contact with Giancarlo Barbadoro, an extremely important figure who helped me to understand that if we try to exist completely within the rules and concepts and precepts of majoritarian society, we are creating for ourselves, we are creating unhappiness, and we are creating a poor relationship with our real existence. Majoritarian society is a kind of prison. It's a cell which places bars and limits on our true existence, which is within the cosmos, within the universe, within nature. By using a traditional European method of meditation and by focusing on all of the aspects of the invisible world, let's say, I have created so many fascinating and happy, enjoyable experiences in my life that I have really no regret about rejecting, let's say, the majoritarian society. As I just said previously, one of the aspects of my eccentricity, let's say, is a belief in the existence of dragons, existent somewhere at some time, not necessarily here in Turin at the moment. But dragons at the moment are topical, and I will make a few references to dragons now. Topical also because in the next few days we will get to the 1st of May. The 1st of May in the Celtic world is known as Beltane. Beltane is the name Beltane derives from a Gaelic word which means bright fire. In Italian that would be fuoco ardente or fuoco brillante. But in any case, it's a festival which is believed in by a large part of the British population, that is in the Celtic areas of Britain. It's a festival which has great importance. It's a festival which falls exactly between the spring equinox and the summer solstice, and it's symbolized obviously in accordance with its name principally by fire. It was historically important to light fires at the time of 1st of May and to celebrate around those fires. So, what about the reference to dragons? Well, firstly, dragons are associated with fire because they traditionally breathe fire. Now, let's have a look at references which I have seen recently or encountered concerning dragons. Point number one, walking through the center of Turin a few days ago, two steps, a couple of paces away from Piazza Castello, yes. I was walking along a street. I looked up at a house, one of those traditional old apartment blocks from traditional Turin, and carved on the wall over the door on this house was a dragon. I have no information about this particular dragon or about that particular house, but my question is, if dragons do not exist and never did exist, why is one carved on the facade of a house in the center of historic Turin? Now let's pass over the channel, return to my birthplace, which is the ancient kingdom of Cornwall, and have a look at some facts there. Well, not so much in Cornwall, but in Wales, there is a legend of the magician Merlin, known in Italian as Merlino, Merlin, who was involved as a young boy in helping an English chieftain to build a castle where he had problems encountering two dragons, a white dragon and a red dragon, which had to be removed in order for him to build his castle. So we have a famous Celtic legend story connecting Merlin with dragons. Then if we move on to my ancient home, ancient kingdom of Cornwall, in the town of Padstow, every year on the 1st of May they have a very, very important celebration in the whole village. Something similar to the kind of Celtic traditions you can find here in the valleys of Susa or Valle d'Aosta. Or indeed the traditions of Sardinia with the Mamutones. In this tradition, the population parade through the streets led by a monster. This monster is traditionally a man wearing a costume, which is always considered to be a horse historically. In fact, the name given to this festival and to the creature is Obios, the Padstow Obios, which is famous throughout Britain and probably also internationally, a festival which they've been repeating for decades. Okay, you say, but that's a horse. Where's the dragon in the story? Well, if you look closely, many people, many observers, possibly eccentric, have considered that this creature is not at all similar to a horse, but is indeed much more similar to a dragon, including the fact that it seems to be breathing fire. This, as I say, is a traditional festival carried out on the 1st of May, a time of Beltane, exactly where fire is of great importance. Part of the pageantry, part of the tradition also involves the creature catching a young girl, for example, which is an association of a ritual of fertility. So, obviously, at least the people of Padstow do not believe that the dragon was a terrible, diabolical creature, but something good associated with the benefit of the local society. Another curious reference in these days is from England. The patron saint of England is St. George. St. George is generally associated as being a killer of dragons. Dragons have been generally associated by religions around the world as a figure of evil and something to be killed and exterminated and eliminated. St. George was traditionally the hero of society because he killed a dragon. But what is strange here is that the patron saint of England is St. George. The festival day for the patron saint of England is the 23rd of April, which has passed just a couple of days ago. But it seems that no one in England celebrates the patron saint's day of England. Therefore, nobody is interested in St. George, which probably means that the dragon has not been eliminated by St. George and continues to exist somewhere. This gives me pleasure because I'm an eccentric. I believe in dragons, and I like to think the dragon is something helpful to our existence. I could continue with many more references and stories about dragons, but unfortunately time is short. In fact, time has finished. I have to bid you good evening from English Planet. Remember to share the vision. Tune in again during the week and next week to Radio Dreamland. Good night, everybody.